Imagine for a second that your life is a high-end skyscraper. Every floor is packed with the data that makes you you. There's a floor for your childhood memories, a floor for your professional skills, and a floor that controls how you speak, move, and breathe. This building is magnificent, but it has one massive vulnerability. It requires a constant, uninterrupted flow of electricity to keep the servers running. If that power cuts out, the data doesn't just go dark, it starts to evaporate. Most people think a health crisis like a stroke is a slow, dramatic event like you see in the movies. They expect a long buildup. But in reality, it's a silent kill switch. In the world of neurology, we talk about a 180-second window. That's 3 minutes. From the moment the power is cut to your brain, you have roughly 180 seconds to intervene before the damage moves from concerning to catastrophic. If you don't know how to flip that switch back to the on position the moment it triggers, you aren't just losing time, you're losing pieces of your identity. Today, we are going to move past the generic medical advice you've heard 1,000 times. We are diving into the Vascular Fortress Framework. This isn't a dry lecture or a list of statistics. This is your tactical manual. We are going to cover the AAA system: awareness, action, and armor. By the end of this session, you'll know exactly how to use physics and biohacking rituals to protect your brain's penthouse from ever going dark. Now, let's look at this differently. Before we talk about the biology, we need to talk about the emergency. Because when the code red hits, your biology doesn't matter nearly as much as your immediate physical response. When a stroke begins, the clock is your greatest enemy. Your brain is essentially an oxygen-hungry engine that has just run out of fuel. Most people, when they feel a sudden weakness or a glitch in their system, do the most dangerous thing possible. They try to walk it off. They try to get to a chair, or they head to the kitchen for a glass of water. From a biohacking perspective, this is a fatal mistake. Here is the core concept, the 180-second survival protocol. We call it the gravity hack. If you or someone you love experiences a sudden unplugging, where an arm feels like lead or speech becomes a scrambled radio signal, you must follow these 3 steps immediately. Step 1 is grounding. You must drop exactly where you are. Do not try to move to a bed. Do not try to reach the sofa. Why? Because the moment you are upright, your heart is fighting a war against gravity to push blood up to your brain. If you are having a vascular event, your pumps are already failing. By staying upright, you are draining the last of the oxygen away from your brain. Furthermore, the floor is the only place in the room you cannot fall from. A sudden drop in blood pressure can cause a collapse, and a head injury on top of a stroke is a recipe for disaster. Step 2 is the penthouse lift. Once you are flat on your back, you need to elevate your feet approximately 12 inches above your heart. You can use a stack of pillows, a laundry basket, or even have someone hold your legs up. In medical terms, we call this optimizing hemodynamics. By raising the lower extremities, you are using gravity as a natural pump to redirect pooled blood from your legs back into your core and, crucially, up into the penthouse of your brain. You are essentially loan funding your brain the blood it needs to stay alive. Step 3 is the vagus override. A stroke triggers a massive, primitive panic response. Your heart rate spikes, your adrenaline surges, and your blood pressure hits the ceiling. This internal storm actually makes the stroke worse by putting more pressure on damaged vessels. You must force your nervous system to calm down using the 4-6 vagus nerve reset. Inhale through your nose for a count of 4, hold for 2, and exhale through your mouth for a count of 6. That long, slow exhale acts like a physical break for your heart. It tells your brain, we are safe, conserve oxygen. Here is the pro tip that saves lives. Never, under any circumstances, swallow anything. People often try to give a stroke victim aspirin or water. This is incredibly dangerous. A stroke can instantly paralyze the swallowing reflex. That helpful glass of water can end up in the lungs, causing immediate choking or fatal pneumonia. Keep the airway clear, stay horizontal, and let the gravity do the work while you wait for the professionals. Before we move on, consider this. Recognizing that you are in a code red situation is actually the hardest part. Most people ignore the signs because they don't look like a fire, they look like smoke. We've been conditioned to wait for the big one, the dramatic collapse. But your body is much more communicative than that. In clinical circles, we look for what we call TAs, or transient ischemic attacks. Think of these as biological warning shots. They are the smoke before the forest fire. The core concept here is understanding that a TIA is a temporary blockage. It might feel like your arm fell asleep for 10 minutes, or perhaps you had a sudden, sharp headache followed by a moment where you couldn't remember a common word. Because these symptoms often vanish within an hour, people brush them off. They call it exhaustion or sleeping funny. In reality, a TIA is your brain's alarm system screaming that the main grid is unstable. The mirror check case study. Imagine you're brushing your teeth and you notice one corner of your mouth isn't moving quite as high as the other. It's subtle, maybe just a few millimeters. You might think you're just tired. But a biohacker knows this is a system failure in the cranial nerves. If you notice the spatial drift, you don't wait for it to go away. You trigger the code red protocol immediately. Another common signal is the static feeling. This isn't the normal pins and needles you get from sitting on your leg too long. This is a sudden, profound numbness that feels like a part of your body has simply disconnected from the map in your brain. The nuance layer. The biggest mistake people make here is the stoicism barrier. We are taught to be tough, to not be a burden, and to wait and see. In neurology, wait and see is how you lose your ability to speak. If you experience a sudden glitch, even if it lasts for only 60 seconds, you must treat it as if the skyscraper is already on fire. Before we dive into the actual biology of what's happening during these glitches, remember, knowledge without a plan is just trivia. You now have the action protocol and the awareness signals. But to truly defend the fortress, you need to understand the enemy's tactics. To protect the brain, we have to look at it differently. Don't think of it as an organ. Think of it as a high-density data center. This data center is the most energy-demanding structure in the known universe. Even though it's only about 2% of your body weight, it consumes 20% of your oxygen and calories. The core concept here is the two ways the grid fails. First, we have the blockage, ischemic stroke. This is like a massive clog in the main water pipe. A blood clot gets lodged in a narrow artery, and everything downstream of that clot begins to starve. This accounts for about 87% of all cases. Second, we have the burst, hemorrhagic stroke. This is when a pipe actually fails and floods the building. The blood itself becomes toxic to the brain tissue it touches, and the pressure buildup causes the floors to collapse. Now let's talk about the twilight zone of the brain, the penumbra. When a stroke hits, there is a ground zero where cells die almost instantly. But surrounding that dead zone is a larger area of cells that are gasping. They are damaged, they are offline, but they are not dead yet. This is the penumbra. Your goal in those first 180 seconds is to save the penumbra. By using the gravity hack, feet up, head flat, you are increasing the perfusion pressure. You are essentially squeezing every last drop of available blood into that twilight zone to keep those cells on life support until the hospital can clear the blockage. The nuance layer. Many people think that if they feel better after a few minutes, the danger is over. But neurologically, the penumbra is still at risk. Even if the power comes back on temporarily, the wiring is often fragile. This is why a TIA is often followed by a massive stroke within 48 hours. The grid has shown you its weakness. You cannot ignore it. Before we move on, consider this. What if you could make your pipes so resilient that they never clog or burst in the first place? This is where we move from reactive emergency care to proactive armor. If you want to bulletproof your brain, you have to realize that the most dangerous time of day is not when you're stressed at work or exercising at the gym. It's the first 20 minutes after you wake up. The core concept: why is the morning so risky? While you sleep, you lose a significant amount of water through breathing and skin evaporation. By 7 a.m., your blood is at its most viscous. It's like thick motor oil. Simultaneously, your body releases a surge of cortisol to wake you up, which narrows your arteries and spikes your blood pressure. This is the perfect storm for a clot to form or a weak vessel to snap. To counter this, we use the vascular shield protocol. This starts before your feet even touch the floor. Step 1, the calf pump. Your calf muscles are known in the medical world as your second heart. They're packed with veins that have one-way valves. When you flex your calves, you are physically pumping stale, pooled blood from your lower extremities back into the main circulation. Before you stand up, pump your ankles up and down vigorously 50 times. This primes your pumps and clears out any sluggish blood that's settled overnight. Step 2, the hydraulic flush. Immediately after the calf pumps, sit up slowly and drink 16 ounces of room temperature water. This isn't just for hydration, it's a mechanical intervention. It thins your blood back down to a lightweight consistency, making it much easier for your heart to push it into the small capillaries of the brain. A common mistake is drinking ice-cold water or jumping straight into a hot shower. Extreme temperature changes cause rapid vasoconstriction, narrowing of the pipes. In the vulnerable morning window, you want to keep your pipes as relaxed and open as possible. Room temperature water and a gradual transition to your day are key pro tips for arterial safety. Before we move on, consider how your daily fuel acts as either a lubricant or a sandpaper for your vascular fortress. We need to stop thinking about dieting for weight loss and start thinking about friction. Your arteries are lined with a delicate, single layer of cells called the endothelium. When this lining is healthy, it's like Teflon, nothing sticks to it. When it's inflamed, it's like Velcro. The core concept: arterial lubrication. The primary enemy of your brain is sticky inflammation. This is caused by high sugar, processed seed oils, and chronic stress. To harden your fortress, you need to load your system with omega-3 fatty acids. Think of omega-3s as a high-grade lubricant for your pipes. High-quality sources like wild-caught salmon, walnuts, chia seeds, and extra virgin olive oil actively reduce the stickiness of your blood. They make your red blood cells more flexible, allowing them to deform and squeeze through tiny capillaries that might otherwise get blocked. Imagine two pipes. One is coated in smooth oil, the other is rusted and jagged. A small piece of debris, a clot, passes through both. In the smooth pipe, it slides through without an issue. In the rusted pipe, it catches on a jagged edge, builds up, and creates a total blockage. By omega loading, you're ensuring your pipes stay in that oiled state. Most people take cheap fish oil supplements that are actually rancid by the time they hit the shelf. Consuming oxidized, spoiled oil actually increases inflammation. The pro tip here is to get your fats from whole food sources or high-end, third-party tested supplements that are kept cold. Also, don't ignore vitamin K2. It acts like a traffic cop, taking calcium out of your arteries, where it causes stiffness, and putting it into your bones, where it belongs. Before we move on, we have to address the what if. What if a glitch has already happened? What if the grid has sustained damage? The answer lies in the most exciting discovery in modern science. For decades, we believed the brain was a static machine. We thought if a floor in your skyscraper was destroyed, that was it. The data was gone forever. Today, we know that's not true. We have the miracle of neuroplasticity. Your brain is a living, breathing ecosystem. If a main bridge on a highway collapses, the city doesn't just stop functioning forever. Engineers build a detour. They find side streets and back roads to get the traffic flowing again. Your brain does the exact same thing through a process called sprouting. It grows new neural connections around the site of the damage. However, there's a catch. The brain is efficient, some would say lazy. It won't build a detour unless it's forced to. This is where constraint-induced movement therapy, CMT, comes in. If a stroke weakens your right hand, your brain will naturally want to use the left hand for everything. This is called learned non-use. By relying on the good side, you are telling your brain, don't bother fixing the right side. In CMT, we actually constrain the good hand, put it in a mitt or glove, and force the patient to use the weakened hand. It is frustrating, it is exhausting, and it is slow. But that struggle is the signal that tells the brain to start building the detour. Every clumsy attempt to pick up a pen is a construction order for new neural pathways. This doesn't just apply to movement, it applies to speech and memory too. The pro tip for neural recovery is relentless repetition. The brain requires thousands of repetitions to solidify a new back road. Most people stop too early. Recovery isn't a 100-meter dash. It's a cross-country trek that requires daily, consistent construction work. We've covered a lot of ground today, and it's important to remember that survival isn't about luck. It's about optimized physics. Let's recap the manual. The code read, if the kill switch flips, remember the gravity hack. Drop to the floor, get your feet up 12 inches, and use the 4-6 breathing to override the panic. Never swallow anything. The awareness. Look for the smoke signals. A TIA or a subtle facial drift is a 5-alarm fire in disguise. Break the stoicism barrier and act immediately. The armor. Bulletproof your morning. Use the calf pump and the hydraulic flush to thin your blood before you start your day. The lubricant. Keep your pipes smooth with omega-3s and vitamin K2. Minimize sticky inflammation from sugars and processed oils. The hope: if damage occurs, embrace the struggle. Use the Detour method to force your brain to rewire itself. You're the creative director of your own longevity. You have been given the tactical manual that most people never see until it's too late. Don't let this knowledge sit on a shelf. Share this with your inner circle, your parents, your friends, anyone who might rely on instinct during a crisis. Because in a stroke, instinct, standing up and walking, is usually the very thing that flips the switch to off forever. Stay flat, stay calm, and keep your penthouse powered up. Start your morning activation tomorrow, and let's keep your vascular fortress standing tall for decades to come. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next deep dive into your biological potential.